It's Thursday, January 24th, 2019, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn more about the dangers of vaping and brush up on our winter safety. First up, municipal and community news and notes. Time is running out. These are the date reminders for Marine and Environmental Affairs for slip renewal deposit invoices. Due January 31st, Marina waiting list renewals are due February 15th, mooring permit waiting list due February 15th, and mooring permit renewals due February 28th. All must be in the Marine and Environmental Affairs Office, 1189 Finney's Lane, Centerville, by 4:15 p.m. on the deadline date. Questions? Call 508-790-6273. Add vaping to an already long list of issues parents have to worry about. According to the FDA, e-cigarettes have become the most common tobacco product used by teens in the past 2 years. More than 2 million middle school and high school students used e-cigarettes in 2017. The state of Massachusetts and the town of Barnstable have updated smoking regulations that went into effect December 31st, and we are re-airing this segment on vaping to help our community understand the dangers it poses to our youth.
Vaping and Juul pods. What does this all mean? Kids today are now picking up something that has 21 grams of nicotine in it. With me to help figure out what this is all about is Bob Collette, your Director of Cape Cod Regional Tobacco Control Program. That's a long title.
It is a long title, and I know we could have had something more brief back when we started in 1994, but this is what we went with.
Right, so the Regional Tobacco Control Program runs out of the county. Give us a little brief history of what your program does.
Our primary focus is public education and education of local stakeholders such as boards of health, town councils, boards of selectmen, and so forth. And also we provide policy development for them and technical assistance in that regard. And so we've helped all of the local towns and municipalities across the Cape and Islands and beyond during the time that we've been in existence with development of tobacco policy relative to youth access to tobacco and also protecting the public from secondhand smoke. And then now we also enforce those regulations for the local towns.
All right. So this is, broad-reaching. Years ago, it was just tobacco, but now there's flavored cigars, and then the Juuls. So the county got a $122,000 grant from the state this year at the end of their budget season to do what?
Well, what we will do is to continue the efforts that we've been making in fighting the tobacco industry, which targets our youth in a very direct way. They spend about 95% of their marketing dollars directly targeting our 14-year-olds, so kids that are in middle school. And as a result, while the work that we've done over the years has resulted in a precipitous reduction in the use of cigarettes among kids, and that along with gradual incremental increases in price of cigarettes have put them out of reach of most kids price-wise. So that's not the cool thing to do anymore, but the new cigarettes is a product that we have called Juul, and this is one of many devices that kids are using now, and they can do so in a very much undetected way. And if you take a look at this, it sort of looks like a flash drive.
Right.
And these are battery operated. So you take the battery, you can recharge it in the computer at home. Kids will have this in their bedroom or at the school library or classroom. They can plug it right into the sides of their computer and recharge it and go ahead and use it. And the way it works is that the user will puff on this, which activates the battery, heats a nicotine liquid that's inside it, and then it creates an aerosol that the user inhales, and they come in many flavors such as straight tobacco, creme de menthe, fruit, mango, creme brulee, and so it's very attractive to the young people.
Right.
And it's also the fact that it's so easily used without detection that they love it because they can sneak it into school. They're using this right in the classroom, in the hallways, in the bathrooms, any nook and cranny they can find in the school. And they take a quick drag off of it. They can conceal the vapor that they exhale. It dissipates very quickly, and unless you're right as close as we are, you would never even know that the person is using it.
So let's really talk. This has huge health implications. I read that one of these small little pods
Yes.
can have up to 21 grams of nicotine in it.
Well, some of them do. One of these pods, and these are the pods that are inserted into the Juul unit, does contain the same amount of nicotine as a package of cigarettes, and that's clearly stated right on the package. And the trouble is that people who are using this, the kids especially, will sometimes consume an entire pod in as little as an hour or an hour and a half to 2 hours. And so if you think about that in terms of the amount of nicotine that they're taking in, keeping in mind that nicotine is an extremely toxic chemical, they are, in essence, consuming the same amount of nicotine in 1 hour as the equivalent of us taking a package of cigarettes in that time.
Nicotine's highly addictive.
Yes.
So a kid who has been peer pressured to pick this up once
Right.
could probably become addicted after their first use of this.
Right.
Whereas cigarettes, sometimes because of the nasty taste or the smoke or the after effects of the other chemicals in cigarettes, might not pick it up again. But this seems like
Exactly.
very nefarious.
It's a little milder than a typical cigarette would be, for instance. You're right. So it's more palatable, easy to tolerate. Typically, nicotine addiction takes about 2 weeks to develop in most users. And that's why the industry targets 14-year-olds that are really unable to make rational choices about what they're going to do with their lives. They're very uncertain of themselves and vulnerable, transitioning from the 8th grade into the 9th grade, into high school, and trying to figure out, they want to be part of a group. So if they have the perception that everyone is doing this, then they're very likely going to try it themselves. And, it's going to make me look cooler, tougher, sexier, whatever, at that age, and the kids are so uncertain. And their perception of this, was at a school yesterday speaking to staff, they related to me that when they spoke with their incoming freshmen a couple of days ago, they thought that 95% of kids use this, which is not anywhere near accurate. It's
Right.
more like 25%, but 40% of kids report in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that just recently was done, they reported as ever having tried it. So that number exceeds the highest smoking rate that we have ever seen among youth back when I was in high school in late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
And so it's very concerning in that regard also. So we're talking about something that they're using now at a greater rate than anybody ever used cigarettes in this country. But so the kids think that a lot more people are actually using this, and that's
Right.
common among them.
Right.
We've found that to be the case, because if they think everybody else is using it, then they're more likely to as well.
Right. So the Cape Cod Regional Tobacco Control Program comes into the schools to help staff and teachers understand how to deal with this?
Yes, over the past 9 months in particular, we've received numerous requests and have given many, many presentations to schools across Cape Cod and beyond the islands, to most often to teachers, other school staff, the school nurses, administrators, and so forth, because this has been a problem that has just recently emerged. These products have only been on the market for about 11 years now, and the use of these has increased by 900% since 2011. And I think of that 900%, about 700% has actually happened in the past 2 years. So the kids are using this, and we're sort of behind the curve as adults. I think this is going on, and then all of a sudden they sort of exploded on the scene, especially with the Juuls,
Right.
in the past couple of years. And so the teachers and the school administrators have been confounded as to how to deal with this in their schools.
Right. So let's talk. There's names here. There's Juul, the Juul.
Yes.
There's e-cigarette and vaping.
Vape.
All of them are the same?
Yes, vape pens, Juuls, e-hookah, it's all the same classification of devices. And they're sold for as little as $4.99 in the local store for disposable type units. And so those are one-time use. You use them, whatever nicotine is included in that, and you throw it away. The Juul, you buy these, a starter pack costs about $50 for one of these and 4 pods. And then you buy the replacement pods for anywhere between $15 and $20. So you make a larger initial investment, and a lot of times it's out of reach for one kid. So a group of kids will pool their money and have somebody purchase this. And unfortunately, we still have some towns on the Cape where the legal age to purchase any nicotine delivery product is still 18. So the high school seniors, many of them are very enterprising. They've established great little businesses for themselves with their 16, 17-year-old peers and younger kids in buying these for them. So they'll charge them more money than what they actually cost, of course, so they're making their own commission tax-free right into their pockets. The other, the other 2 major sources of these is that they're available online, and so any person, the age verification online is, are you 18?
Right.
And you just check the box, and then they'll mail it to you. So kids are, they go out and buy gift cards, or if they receive gift cards for holidays or birthdays or what have you, they turn around and use them to purchase these. Most of the time, these arrive on the doorstep before mom and dad get home from work, and the kids are home from school at, 2:30, 3 o'clock or so. So that it's easy for them to get. And then, unfortunately, one of the other sources, and I've eyewitnessed this myself on a couple of occasions while speaking with retailers right in the store setting, is that parents are coming in to buy this stuff for their kids. Everybody should know that this stuff is absolutely not safe. It's not harmless. That's a widespread misconception. These do contain, again, nicotine. They also contain some chemicals such as propylene glycol and diacetyl, and some heavy metals, and we're starting to see some emerging health issues that have been associated with this. We don't have longitudinal data to show what long-term use of these causes with people, because they've only been out on the market for a while, and at the beginning there weren't that many users. So it's going to take some time, but we do know that diacetyl, for instance, causes a condition called popcorn lung.
Yep.
And that's characterized by holes in the air sacs and a calcification of the lymph nodes in the lungs. And it's a very dire condition. And it was linked to the diacetyl, which is which contained in these, through a study of people who worked in popcorn factories where they make microwave popcorn, and they use the diacetyl in that the chemicals that they use to make that. So those folks who have been exposed to diacetyl were coming down with this same condition, and so that's how we know that.
It just blows my mind that these, again, are marketed towards children. This is not a marketing scheme for adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. This is literally to get that youngster hooked on a product that is believed to be benign.
Exactly, and every tactic that they use it's right out of the tobacco industry playbook. And so they are, now you might hear radio ads by this particular company saying, these are not meant for kids. So what's the message to kids? Yeah.
Let me get some, right?
These are for you. Let me get some. Absolutely. And what they're targeting your 14-year-olds, knowing that once they addict somebody, which again only takes a couple of weeks, they have a customer for an average of 20 years. So it's all about the money for that. They really don't have any concern about the kids or their welfare.
Right. So I know that your program does some enforcement. You can come in and make sure that age verification is working, that the product is behind the counter so kids can't access it.
Correct.
What tips do you have for parents to combat this?
Well, they just need to be very aware of what's going on, and as they have to be with everything.
Right.
And so the problem, the problem with these is that it's not what you might call your usual suspects that are using this. Usually in a high school, for instance, you'd have a group of kids that you would say, okay, yeah, those are the stoners. These are the kids that smoke cigarettes. These are the, no. This transcends all social groups in the high school. So you're talking about the kids in the key club, the chess club, the captain of the
Athletes.
basketball team, athletes, the girls' swim team, everything. Football players, I was at a high school yesterday, again, where the principal related that during last fall, when fall football and soccer practices were starting before school even started, the kids were juuling right outside in their pads and their soccer uniforms getting ready for practice, not even realizing that it's, full of nicotine and against school rules. Just laughing about it.
Respiratory,
Yeah.
you're putting
Right.
aerosol, you're inhaling aerosol back into your,
Right. Again,
at this point, lungs still developing.
That's absolutely correct. And they advertise it as a harmless vapor, but it's not a vapor, which sounds very benign.
Right.
It's an aerosol, which the human respiratory system is not designed to handle.
Right. Well, this has been an education, Bob. I think parents just need to ask their children, what are they doing with these products, or not to buy them for them either.
Right. And just be aware of
What it looks
these
like.
things. These look like a flash drive.
Right.
The kids, they're very easily concealed. They put them in their pockets. The girls will hide them wherever, that they can't be checked in school. And it looks like any other computer component that you might
Right.
have on your desk. You just have to be really careful and vigilant about things. And talk to your kids. You have to be straight with them. Start talking to them when they're very young.
Right.
And that's the time to get them. And middle school, the kids are really, really vulnerable. And it's a great age to really talk to them when they're about 11 or 12 years old, and they're starting to be aware of their surroundings and what's going
Right.
on. And when they enter middle school, they're going to start seeing this stuff.
Right.
And these are being used at the middle school level.
Right.
We're hearing reports from here in Barnstable.
Well, the
and
first one,
across the Cape.
$4.95. Geez, that's a weekly allowance or a daily allowance for
Yeah.
some middle school kids. So,
Right.
it's accessible.
Yep. And then there are those disposable ones and so forth. Some of them will look like eyeliner or lipstick. So just don't assume that it's something that is in your child's backpack or sitting on their bureau, and
Right.
them thinking that you won't know what it is. Take a look at everything.
Right.
And most of all, most importantly, talk to the kids about it. Talk to your kids. And the parents need to know this stuff is not safe. There's some evidence that it's probably safer than cigarettes or other forms of tobacco. But again, they contain nicotine. It's a very dangerous and toxic chemical.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate the information, and I know our parents will. Parents, check your kids' backpacks, dressers, things that look like little components, really literally could help save your child's life someday.
That's true.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Paula. Nice to have you. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. All right.
Now that winter seems to be here to stay, Barnstable Fire Captain Robert Cecil has some important winter safety tips.
Those 50-degree weather days that we've been having this winter aren't going to last. Winter safety is really on our minds. You should be preparing now and actually thinking about winter safety before the bad weather gets here. With me today at Barnstable Fire Department, Captain Rob Cecil. Rob, it's been beautiful out there all winter so far.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate so far this winter.
Right, but it's going to come. It comes every year. Sometimes it's as late as March, but there's a lot of winter safety things that the fire department really wants people to understand and kind of think about and prepare for. So let's start with, obviously, no ice on the ponds, but no ice on the pond is really safe, is it?
No, and one of the things that we've had an issue with is the fact that we haven't had any ice on the ponds yet this year, and that kind of puts us behind the eight ball training-wise, because we typically like to go out right around the time when ice is beginning to develop, because those are oftentimes the most frequent causes of people falling through, animals and people.
Right.
It's not so much when we've had 20-degree weather for 3 weeks
Right.
that the ice is too bad. It's when you first get the first few days of the freeze and you get the animals that go out on the ice and people want their dogs and stuff back, and
Right.
and
Right.
people having the misfortune of going out and not being safe and falling through themselves and put us in a position to need to be the rescuers.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Really, the ice itself, even if it looks safe, it's not. Keep your pets leashed. Try to keep them off the ice.
Yeah, we don't recommend ice safety anymore. It used to be that the fire departments would go out and say, okay, the ice is 3-4 inches thick now. We don't do that. We don't condone any safe ice practices anymore other than the local skating rinks.
There you go. There's plenty of ice at HYCC. Excellent. And let's talk about around the home. So if there is some storm prep or storms that do happen, what are some of the things that folks should be doing at their house?
Well, I mean, preparing for power outages over the last few winters, we've had issues with a lot of people having power outages because of the heavy wet snow that we've gotten, bringing down power lines and tree branches and things like that, and causing some damage around the property, and making sure that they have provisions in place so that if the power does go out for a few days, that they have spare food and water. The use of a backup generator is a good idea as long as it's run appropriately. We don't want to see people running gas-powered equipment in the home, causing issues with an accumulation of CO. I mean, it happens, you hear about it on the news all the time about people running power equipment after a storm and having deaths or near-death experiences because of CO accumulations, carbon monoxide in the home.
Right. So those always have to be vented. You can't even put them in a garage. They should be outdoors.
Correct.
Right. And then the other thing that we know about CO is if we do have some heavy, big snow, that the outside pipes for your furnace systems need to be actually clear.
Yeah. And generally, we don't have feet of snow. I mean, it has happened where we've had several blizzards over the last few years, and you get the major accumulations, but just having windstorms where you get the drift and having the vent pipes coming out of the side of the house get caked up with ice, making sure that people are going around and cleaning a pathway to the vent pipes and clearing any ice and snow buildup from the pipes so that they don't have the CO being backed up into the home.
Right. And talking about clearing paths, one of the most important ones is a path to the fire hydrant.
We usually recommend that if you are in decent physical condition and can do it safely and in good health, to help your neighbor out and help yourself, to shovel out the hydrants or use your snow blower for the hydrants to clear around them so that we don't have to try and shovel them out when seconds count.
Right.
In my neighborhood, I know that we've got a decent network of people that go and shovel out the closest hydrant to their home and their neighbors, and it's a good thing to try and practice looking out for your neighbors under any event.
Right.
So, especially in times of weather events and disasters and things like that, to be watching out for each other.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about vehicle safety at this time of year. We had, I believe, earlier this year, a real incident of black ice all of a sudden. Well, how do people prepare for that, or how do they recognize black ice?
Seems like maybe they don't prepare for it, and that's what the problem is.
Right.
The thing is that when you first get the first few freezes of the winter, you can get an accumulation of black ice on the streets and roads and stuff, and they might not have gotten out to sand or salt the roads in time, or because of the rapid development of it. And people just need to be aware that they have to drive safer and take that kind of thing into consideration, that when the temperature fluctuates right around freezing and below, that you get those buildups, and it can be a potential problem if you're not accustomed to driving under those conditions the first time again each winter.
Right. And one of the other things that has been, we see the state police post this on Twitter all the time, is people don't clear their cars off. That makes me nuts. I don't understand that.
And I mean, under most circumstances, you see something blow off of a vehicle and you're fortunate enough not to have any bad events happen from it. But there have been instances where large sheets of ice come off of a truck or somebody's personal vehicle because it wasn't cleaned off, and you've seen them go through windshields and cause physical damage to the vehicles and damage to the occupants of the vehicles. It is a significant safety hazard.
Right. And one of the other hazards that we've noticed also on the roads is people aren't clearing their windshields and their windows as well. I think you still need access in winter for visual in your cars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not probably the best one to be talking about the law of the situation, but it seems like common sense would be that you would want to have all of your windows and windshield clear so that you had clear visibility 360 degrees around the vehicle as you're driving it.
Right.
It seems like it would be a good, safe thing to practice.
Exactly, and that's really what it's all about in the winter is slowing down and taking some safety precautions to begin with. Anything else you want residents to know about preparing for winter or being safe during the winter?
Well, I would say, again, one of the most important things is that we're generally only a phone call away, but with that being said, you want to look out for your neighbors. If there's somebody that is housebound and you haven't seen them in a couple days or whatever, to check in on them and see what they're... sorry, I'm going to have to go.
Okay.
Here is a look at things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Local romantics, those of Scots heritage, and folks with a poetic bent are on notice that the 3rd annual Robert Burns Night, commemorating the life and creative legacy of the famed Scottish national poet, will be celebrated at 7 p.m. Friday, January 25th at the 1717 Meeting House in West Barnstable. Burns Night events were held annually by the poet's family and friends beginning a few years after his death, dating back to as early as 1801, and the event grew into a countrywide tradition all across Scotland. Suggested donation, $15, $10 foundation members, students and under 18. Tickets at the door. More information at 508-362-4445 or www.1717meetinghouse.org. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.